do a monthly thought leadership branding club roundtable where I feature some amazing speakers and experts from around the world on different topics. Last month, we did a whole thing on empowering women and diverse voices. We had 3 amazing women influencers on LinkedIn. Today, I want to talk about the rise and fall of Twitter, because Twitter is going through a lot of tumultuous changes, mostly because of Elon Musk, but also because of a lot of other things going on in the world. And I brought 2 amazing avid Twitter users and influencers, experts, and they have some great insights. And of course, we're also working on other things too, because I do LinkedIn. This is on LinkedIn live stream. It's also on my Facebook pages. It's also tweeting on Twitter. So if you have questions or you want to be part of this conversation, we encourage you to comment below. Let us know what your questions or comments are. You can retweet us. You can reply to the tweets. We'll be checking all those things, and we're going to get into a discussion about what the heck is going on with Twitter. And I'm dying to have this conversation. I'm so excited for my guests. I'd love for you to introduce yourself. So let's start with you, Maddy, and then we'll go to Christopher.
Sure. So my name is Maddy Eisenberg, and I've been on Twitter, for over 10 years now, but I really started using it avidly in the last probably 4 to 5 years. And the main thing that I use my Twitter platform for is mental health advocacy. And I have also worked in radio broadcasting and media. So I really also love to use the Twitter platform as a whole for things like local news and information.
That's great. Thank you. Christopher, please introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Christopher Bouzy. I'm the founder and CEO and also Spoutible. I started using Twitter back in 2009 with my developer account. And maybe 7 years or whatever so ago, I created like a personal account and started, tweeting under the Bouzy handle. I use my account mainly for, putting out information about stuff that's happening on Twitter in terms of like disinformation and misinformation, trolling trolls, politics, things like that. So yeah, it's a wide variety of stuff I use my Twitter account for.
And I'll say that I joined Twitter in 2010 after so much hesitation. I didn't realize why I should be there, but someone said, "Bobby, I'm a speaker. That's what I do for a living, professional speaker." And they said, "Do you have a message for the world?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." So you should be on Twitter. I was like, "Oh, okay." So then I went on Twitter. I started doing 1 tweet per day, just the power of connection rules. Listen, smile, empathy, things like that. And then eventually people started responding. And pretty soon, 6 months later, I had 5,000 followers, and I got my first speaking gig off of Twitter. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm fully invested in Twitter. This is fantastic, man. And then in about 18 months, grew to 100,000 followers, and then it just kind of kept going really, really fast. And then it hit 500,000, 500,000 followers, and that's kind of when Trump came around. I stopped engaging on Twitter. I kind of left. It was just too divisive, too crazy. And I started getting back into it after that, around 2021 or so, and during the pandemic for sure. And typically now I spend a lot of my time, I don't tweet as much as I used to. I do a lot of retweets. I retweet social justice, social activism, I certainly talk about Elon Musk on Twitter. I talk about some of the crazy stuff that happens in the US and in Canada, of course, particularly against, trans rights, things that are against LGBTQ, against women, against people of color. So that's kind of where my focus is. But I do tweet once in a while, and I do love the platform, which is why when the whole Elon Musk thing happened, there was a lot of predictions being made about what would happen. And I think that I would say most predictions I was making back in the day have mostly come true for the most part. But I want to make this a free flow discussion. So if you guys have comments, tell us where you're from. Are you from North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe? Let us know. And you can also ask us questions, because we want to hear from the people in the audience what's going on with you guys. But I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on, let's start with, why is Twitter important? And then maybe we can get into a discussion of its relevancy now, or are we losing what's happening? So let's start with you, Christopher. What do you think? Why is Twitter still important? Do you think?
I don't think Twitter's.
Or you don't think it's
don't
important?
think
Okay, yeah,
Twitter-
that's fine.
No. Well, before Elon took over, I thought Twitter was actually one of the most influential or the most platform, social media platform there is, only because, not just because of the way it's designed, but because of the folks that are on the platform. You have world leaders, journalists, really influential people have Twitter accounts. So when information, when breaking news happens, it usually happens on Twitter before we actually see it on cable news and other places. So because of the way it is designed, news travels really fast on Twitter. You're able to get whatever information you need to get out, whether once again you're a politician, a world leader, journalist, whatever. So Twitter was great at that. But of late, Twitter has just become a cesspool of mis and disinformation, harassment. The algorithms are completely just out of whack. I barely see the folks that I follow in terms of the influential folks, the journalists and things of that nature. All I see now is just like a lot of right-wing propaganda. So I don't think it's a viable platform anymore for what it was intended for.
Okay, I'm going to slightly disagree with you, but I think that's great. It's good to have the healthy disagreement here. I mean, I think Twitter is still incredibly viable. And one of the things that happened was when Elon Musk came. I mean, a lot of people were saying, "I'm leaving. I'm going to Post. I'm going to Mastodon, Tribal, and now Spoutible." And while I have created accounts on all those different things, and my pin tweet does say, "If the Twitter masses fall apart, please join me here." But I always said that it would last, and the reason why I didn't want people to leave is because being a social media influencer for many years now, for 15 years, what I can say is that there's no greater platform to build awareness for marginalized, oppressed, and vulnerable voices than Twitter. Because I mean, sometimes you can do a Facebook live feed, sometimes you can do a LinkedIn live or an Instagram live that gets traction, but in general, Twitter is a place where you'll have that live feed. You can have the live results, the tweets, the images, the text, the videos, and people who are disenfranchised and have small voices, they can get amplified quite easily on Twitter. And that's why I was trying to position people to please stick around and not leave, use the platform to help those voices, because it's going to be harder for them to get that same kind of traction on the other platforms. So for me, and yes, everything else you said, Christopher, I agree with it. There's a cesspool of a lot of devices, although that was also here before too. And I think it's been really bad for a long time. I've learned to kind of guard my heart.
So go ahead. Before we go to Maddy, I just want to say this. I totally agree with you pre-Musk, but now, what you're saying in terms of like trying to amplify marginalized voices, whether we are retweeting stuff or posting original content, it's just not getting the traction that it used to get. And there's one other thing I like to just pretty sure right now we have a bunch of trolls, flooding your saying stuff about me or Maddy or you. And that is what Twitter has become now. So there's a lot of noise and less, information that's to me, that's important. So I do, and this is why I disagree with you. I do think people need to leave Twitter and go, whether it's Spoutible, whether it's Post News, notes with Substack. I think because we are helping a person that is, in my opinion, dangerous. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's how I feel. But I'm sorry,
that part I get. And what I would say to that is, and we'll give you a chance to talk about Spoutible later on the show. When you look at what happened in Tennessee, where they ousted those two were they senators, I guess, from the state house. All the amplification. It was more Twitter than on Facebook or Instagram. Like they were talking about Instagram, talking about LinkedIn, talking about, but the amplification still, even though the reach is less, even though there's a bias towards all the right-wing stuff, even though Elon Musk is really doing a terrible job with Twitter, the amplification of that movement and what was going on in the video shared, I think, was far higher on Twitter than anywhere else. But that's it. Let's go to Maddy and see what her thoughts are.
It's already a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I think, Christopher, I agree with you in the sense that the platform is heading towards this sort of really scary dystopian type thing where there's a bunch of disinformation circulating. That said, I think it can be saved as a platform because I think ultimately, even though you've got a very dangerous person running it, I think it's also up to the users to make it what it is. In a sense, I think Musk has obviously a very large influence over the platform and the changes that he's going to make to it regardless. But I think it's up to the users. And the reason I say that is because I've experienced an incredible rise in hate speech directed towards me and misinformation and disinformation on my platform since Musk took over. That said, I've still been able to work really hard to curate my feed in a way that I can see what I want to see, which some might argue is building an echo chamber. But I think it's more throwing the negativity and the hate speech away and bringing in a more positive side of the platform, which is what I always aim to do on my platform anyways, considering it's geared towards mental health advocacy. So I think regardless of, the way that Twitter is headed right now, I still find that my platform is a very, very positive place. A lot of my followers are local, so that does help, local to the city of Ottawa, where I am now. But yeah, I'm really still enjoying the platform, and I think that I will keep enjoying the platform until he runs it into the ground or whatever else happens, because Twitter is used for a very, very specific purpose, and it is to get information out as quick as possible and to get information first. And that's something, as a former radio broadcaster, that I really enjoy.
Yeah, although I think that the NPR thing was definitely a huge thing, because if they are no longer going to use Twitter, or I mean, they said it's not as relevant to them. I don't know what that means. Maybe they use it less. I'm not sure. I think certainly that what you talked about, Matt, reminds me of what happened on Facebook, which was during the divisive election, the previous election. There was a lot of people sharing stuff there, and it became very, very divisive, and people stopped hanging out on Facebook, including myself. I'm still on there, but I don't hang out there as much as I used to. So I have my account. I post there once a day, maybe, and sometimes share updates of my family and kids, whatever. But I'm not really engaging there as much as I used to, because it just became too much of a mess. And so I think, but there are some people who curated some really good stuff there. There's people who created good stuff on Twitter. I know another colleague of mine, her name's Indra. She has a Positive Vibe tribe, and she has like 7,000 members in her community. She's created this really great thing there. So I think there are people that are doing a good job of it. But I think there's still I admit I'm biased because I'm heavily invested in Twitter. It is my largest influential platform, and so I'm doing whatever I can to protect it. And it's been great for my business, because when I had all this influence, I was able to talk to people and leverage opportunities for my business, and I still do that today. So I'm very protective of that. At the same time, I also understand that there are other ways to go. So let's talk about. Go ahead, Christopher. You have something you want to say? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to just add, and I think it's the network effect, and I hear both of you, and I respectfully disagree with both of you, only because talking with the users, talking with folks that have left Twitter, and for different reasons. It's not all just about harassment. Some of it is just they don't like Elon Musk. But when you look at your followers and you say, well, I got 400,000 followers, or I got 500 or a million or whatever, those numbers are deceiving. How many of those people are actually still active on the platform? I mean, I have close to 400,000 or so followers. My tweets don't get nowhere near as much traction as it used to get. And partially because there are folks who just decided to leave, and also because of what they're doing with the algorithm and how they're amplifying certain accounts, and which he's admitted to. So yeah, I just think that we have become, and I still use Twitter, mind you, that I have my own platform, but we've come accustomed to thinking that because we have all these followers and we've had great success with the platform, because I would agree with you, Twitter is by far, when it comes to networking and meeting folks and getting your message out, by far, Twitter was the best. I just don't agree with it still being that. That's all.
Yeah, and I think that it brings to me the idea, which I talk about a lot about, is multi-platform content strategies, because the same thing happens on LinkedIn. A lot of people are on LinkedIn and they say LinkedIn's the best place for networking and building relationships and building your business. But now the algorithm is people are getting far, far less reach. And I think this is happening everywhere. And that's why I've been pitching to a lot of my clients. They look, you should have an integrated strategy. Like, depending on your target audience and where they are, you may want to leverage LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, for example, like a trio like that, to try to get the message out, because you never know where you're going to hook people with things. And for me, still, I get far greater traction with my Twitter engagement and my activity than anywhere else. And if Facebook ever started popping up, maybe I'll go back there and do stuff. But let's switch to talking about the segue into Elon Musk took over, and what's I want to understand what your take on this is, because I have my own take on this guy and what's happened. But let's start with you, Maddy, this time. What's your take on what's been going on Twitter since Elon's taken over? The good, the bad, and the ugly.
I don't think there's that much good, and I think probably Christopher would agree with that.
Definitely.
I agree
he's
too.
He's taken a platform which, there were some improvements to be made with it, and there still are some improvements to be made. And he took a well-functioning platform and basically ran it into the ground, made changes that benefited him and nobody else, when in fact Twitter should be just like any other social media platform. It should be putting content creators first, and it should be putting users first. And from what I know about Elon Musk's personality, that's not his priority. So I think it's gotten really, really ugly. And my biggest worry, again, as a former broadcaster / journalist / media representative, I'm not sure what to call myself these days, but as a communicator online, disinformation's a big priority for me. And especially from a scientific perspective, if we're talking about some things like the COVID-19 pandemic, which is still going on, although you wouldn't know that if you looked at the majority of Twitter. So it's quite dangerous and frankly scary, because as I mentioned before, Twitter is used for a very specific purpose, is to get information out fast and to get information out first. And while before I was getting the proper information first, as a story was changing, information is going to change. That's just the natural way of the news cycle. But we were still getting a mostly factual picture of each story that was presented online on Twitter. And if you knew where to look, of course, you had to follow the proper journalists. But now I don't know what the heck is going on. Every time a story breaks, I'm getting information left, right, and center from accounts that I've never seen before. And it's painting a very scary picture, especially with all of the scientific misinformation that's circulating. You see a story about COVID and it completely gets twisted and manipulated, and it's just further feeding into that sort of disinformation cycle that I think is going to be, it's going to sound a little bit grim, but the downfall of society if this keeps going the way that it's going.
You just pretty much made the point that I was making earlier, but I digress. But so first, I agree pretty much with everything that you said. I'd just like to add this. So when you're taking away API access from platforms like Bot Sentinel and other platforms to help researchers and scientists and just average individuals be able to discern from inauthentic accounts versus authentic accounts, being able to understand what mis and disinformation is being pushed on the platform. And then when you have journalists and credible news outlets that their tweets are being suppressed, I barely see stuff from the New York Times and CNN and stuff like that. I'm, like I said before, I'm seeing a lot of right wing stuff, and it's it's what I'm saying is factual, because I'm not the only person who's seeing this. And just to give you a quick example, I created a Twitter account called Test Account. The literal name is Test Account, and I didn't follow anyone. I was just using this account to try to see like what type of information that I would see. And I started receiving emails from Twitter with a bunch of right-wing stuff. And I tweeted about this the other day. And I was not following anyone. So the point that I'm making is that the platform is getting to a point where it's becoming, 4chan, where it's becoming a place where you're seeing more mis and disinformation and not the credible information that we're used to seeing. So before, it used to be a balance, where you would see some COVID mis and disinformation, but you would see a lot of, accurate information. We're not seeing that balance anymore. We're getting overrun by mis and disinformation.
Yeah, I think I should add to that. While I painted a bit of a grim picture, which is akin to what you were saying earlier, Christopher. Like I'm kind of two minds here. One that's more like yours, and one that's more like Bobby's, where I still do want to save Twitter at the end of the day. But again, that's coming from a very biased point of view, in the fact that I am a legacy verified account, and I hope I don't get my checkmark taken away for saying that right now, but it's very possible. And I'm legacy verified. It's where I have most of my followers, and where most of my speaking engagements and things like that have come from. So switching as a content creator, purely from that perspective, switching to a new platform is scary for me, purely because of that. And I don't know if once I make the switch, that the followers are going to come with it, and building back up. It took me 3 to 4 years to build to this point. So building back up is a bit nerve-wracking.
Well, let me just add, and this is the point that I was also making earlier, that the whole network effect and everything. And a lot of folks are just like you. They're scared about having to go to a new platform and starting over. And that's the biggest, I think, misconception about all of this, is that, if I go to another platform, it's going to take years for me to grow my following. That I can tell you for a fact is absolutely not true. We're doing this already with Spoutible. And I would say this if it was not my platform. If you came to the platform and talked to the users, they would tell you there are users on the platform right now that has more engagement than they've ever had on Twitter. And partially because we're not really using an algorithm in the way that Twitter uses an algorithm. But also, a lot of folks, because they have loyal followers, when they come over to Spoutible, they're starting off with 5,000 and 6,000 followers, and I kid you not. So if you came over to our platform or some of the others, of course you're not going to have as many followers as you have now, because it still takes time. But to think that your engagement would be lower, we're actually showing higher engagement on Spoutible than we are on Twitter. So yeah.
I mean, what I would say to that is, having built followers and platforms on LinkedIn and Clubhouse and Instagram and Twitter, the truth is that even having half a million followers on Twitter didn't lead to followers on LinkedIn or followers on Instagram. You have to put time and energy into it. Same with my mailing list. Because you think they all join my mailing list, they don't. So you have to spend time building those things. So there's definitely going to be an impact. I mean, for me to get to where I was, it won't be the same on any platform if I choose to focus on LinkedIn or focus on Instagram, whatever it might be. So I think certainly that's a challenge. I think my take is a little bit more, I try to be more hopeful. So, I understand it's hard, like seeing all the right-wing stuff. That's really frustrating, seeing all the hate and division. I mean, my old pinned tweet used to be about just building bridges of understanding and not trying to build to feel the divide. I think with Elon Musk, the thing I see is a guy who, first off, is a narcissistic type individual who runs his own companies, and he thought, I love Twitter. I think I can do just a good job. But the culture of an information media site is much different than a Tesla or a SpaceX. And I also believe that he's emotionally compromised, which led him to make decisions that are based on his emotional projection on things. And the worst thing he did is he never really engaged the users to see what they wanted, because that to me is the biggest problem with a business. You have to understand what your users want in what they need. And he never, ever did that. He just said, oh, we should have blue check marks for paid, and we should get rid of the legacy thing because I don't like them. And we need to do this. I'm going to fire these people. And he made all these decisions, but a lot of them quite boneheaded decisions that to me looked like emotional projection. When he went on a Twitter space and he had a question he didn't like, and then he canceled Twitter spaces for like 30 hours. We're like, okay, like that is really, really emotionally immature. So I think
I'd say, sorry to interrupt, Bobby.
Yeah, no problem. So I was just saying, for me, like everything he does to me comes from this emotional bias of wherever he is and whatever he's thinking, some sort of mad guy at the top of a dark room, pulling strings and telling people what to do. And I think that's why Twitter is, dwindling in so many ways. And because he has all this power, when I look at this, they used to say Twitter was the schoolyard, right? And so my take is that if we exit the schoolyard, then these people win. And so for me, I want to be able to stand up and speak up for the people. Someone might share a divisive comment, but you know what? I'm going to ignore that one, and I'm going to go focus on the one that needs my support, that I can retweet and get the word out about what they're doing, what they're working on. And I try to rally people to build better bridges of understanding. And sometimes I'm able to convert a right wing or MAGA person to agree with me, or they'll send me a message DM and say, you know what, I appreciate the way you handle things with empathy and compassion and kindness, which is kind of my way as a heart leader. And even that one person, even though there's millions that won't be changed, I personally am happy to have those small conversions once in a while. At the same time, I recognize that it's important to build platforms. And I'm a big believer in multi-platform strategy. So for me, when I look at what Elon Musk has done, yeah, I think it's extremely devastating and hurt. But I think that if there's enough voices from individuals, content creators in particular, and businesses who want to leverage this platform and keep it as relevant as it should be, then the only thing I think will motivate Elon Musk, would be money, right? And so maybe that might change things. But I don't know, until he finds some sort of leadership operational team to run things, I don't expect things to improve.
Well, he had an operational team running things.
I got rid of them, though.
He let them go.
Yeah,
But
no.
I think you were saying, Bobby, that you were speculating that he may have gotten into Twitter to think, hey, maybe I can do a good job with this business, as I've done with all the other businesses that he definitely doesn't know much about, but he knows how to run a business. I don't think he ever got in personally. I don't think he ever got into Twitter to try and do a good job. I think he got into Twitter to reformulate it into a platform that matches his ideals, which appear to be free speech. But I personally, as a very, very liberal person, if you couldn't tell already, that his idea of free speech includes hate speech and disinformation and all the things that definitely cross many lines that shouldn't ever be crossed. So I think that's been his goal all along, and he's definitely getting there at hyperspeed.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was just going to say, my prediction is Twitter will not be what it is 5 years from now. My prediction is Twitter is dead, and we're just looking at the shell. I really do. I just think a lot of, and I'm including myself in this, hold on to these accounts, things like that, because of the following that we have and because how successful we've been on the platform. But I think Twitter is my space, and sort of Facebook as well, because there's still, Facebook obviously still has the traffic and things like that, but it's not what it was 10 years ago or whatever. And I think we've pretty much seen the end of Twitter. You see NPR leaving, you're going to see other outlets as well, you're going to see other large influencers as well leave the platform.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if that's what happens. Right now they still have a lot. Even if you look at the users that are trying to use it in a positive way, we're still talking in millions and millions of people. So, we know what happened to Vine, we know what happened to other platforms, so we'll see what happens. I'm curious about that. We have a bunch of people who are commenting. First off, they're telling Christopher, you look amazing. There's a couple of there as well. Another person says they no longer see folks like Ida Bay Wells, Clint Smith, Jelani Cobb, and many other brilliant posts on this app. I love Spoutible. There you go. Interesting chat. At the end of the day, there's nothing like Twitter out there. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on how AI has impacted Twitter. So there's a quick question for you. How has AI or how will AI impact Twitter? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, under Musk, I don't think it's going to have any effect because it's like bot signal and other platforms as well. Bot check me, all these other platforms that were built to help make Twitter better. He's making it harder for us to do our jobs. So I just I hate to be the grim reaper here because I know, like I said, how much Twitter has helped society in a whole. And like I said, with my platform, it's done wonders for my career and things that I've been able to do. But when I look at Twitter now and I see what's happening in terms of like AI and all that stuff, I just don't see it as the platform that we had had grown to love. So I once again, I know I sound like a broken record, but I think everyone is like holding on and thinking like, hey, maybe he'll sell it and then it'll become better again. I just don't see it. I just don't see it happen. But yeah, but back to the question. Yeah, so with the AI stuff, your guess is as good as mine when it comes to AI and Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not sure either on it, to be honest. I mean, now with ChatGPT and AI, it's pretty powerful what people can use with these things. And I think that, Twitter is a place that definitely AI could probably have a negative impact because of people using AI in a terrible way because there is so much negativity on this platform. So it can affect people. But again, it's up to those of us who are, nurturing our communities and nurturing our messages to navigate that the best way we can. Maddy, what do you think?
I'm kind of in the same mind as both of you there. Like, I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen with AI in respects to Twitter. I think AI as a broader discussion it could take up 3 hours, without talking about anything else we have to talk about. So I think it's way too complicated to talk about it just in the aspect of the way Twitter is. But my thoughts on AI when it comes to content creation and information and article creation and journalism and things like that, I just wholeheartedly believe it's going to do more harm than good. I don't think it's necessary in that aspect, and I'm very hesitant to try things like ChatGPT and other AI platforms for my own use, because I think that as a communicator, as an online communicator, that I'm very capable of doing everything I need to do without the assistance of AI. I think it's a potentially very dangerous road to go down.
Mm-hmm. And I just put up on the feed here people who disagree with me, saying that this person saying that they're not boneheaded moves. It's all premeditated. It's all planned. It's all sinister. And I totally get that. That's what this person's saying. It's all sinister and part of just who he is and what he wants to do. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I can't speak to it being premeditated or him being sinister, because at the end of the day he could just not know what he's doing, or he could just be an evil genius when it comes to this. So I mean, I can't speak to his frame of thought and mindset or whatever.
Well, right now he's just having fun too. Like, you can tell that here there's no end game for this platform. Take the stupid Doge, however you want to pronounce it, little thing on which I didn't even notice. It didn't show up on my mobile feed. I only noticed it hopping on desktop a few days ago, and I was just thinking, what the hell is this? Anyways, no, he's just having a blast, ruining the platform, and it seems like he has a very childish personality. So maybe as childish personalities go, he'll get bored and maybe he will sell it and move on to another project, and that's my hope.
and I want to get back to Christopher, because he was saying that it's over in 5 years. So let me ask you this then: what could fix it? What do you think could fix it?
Oh man, so that's a really good question. I don't think. All right. So if he sold it, depending on who he sold it to, if he sold it to someone that was, highly respectable, someone that was liked by both sides of the aisle, right? Someone that is looked at as someone, I wouldn't say neutral, but like I said, admired by a lot of folks, and they came and they pretty much did the complete opposite of what he's done the past several months, and made a concerted effort to stop the disinformation, the targeted harassment, and things of that nature. Then yeah, then it's possible it could have a comeback if, and here's the thing, if a lot of folks have not already left the platform, because once people leave, they're not coming back. So that's the thing. If he sells this, let's say within the next, then I would agree. If it's sold to the right person, there's a possibility there could be a comeback. But if this continues, what he's doing, just the craziness discussed a bit today, he's going to continue to turn people off. And just one other thing that you guys had said earlier. Look, it's not the platform itself, whether it's Spoutible, whether it's platforms, look, they're all just pieces. Make these platforms great are the people coming to the platforms, the people who are putting the content out there. Anyone can build a Spoutible, anyone can build a Twitter, anyone can build a Post News or whatever. I mean, it's not that difficult to do, but it's getting the folks to come onto the platform and use it daily, and not just use it one time and go away. So to me, I think that's the key thing. So the next Twitter or the next whatever, it's what the people that are watching this want it to be. So whether it's Spoutible, Post News, or Substack, or some other platform that we don't even know about yet. But I don't think Twitter is going to be the dominant microblogging website 5 years from now. I just don't.
But do you think, I guess my other question, Christopher, is, you said it's all about getting people to the platforms and getting them to use them. Like, do you think that there's an algorithm or a formula for that in terms of its popularity? Like, take Facebook and Instagram, for example. It just blew up. I mean, we all know the story of Facebook and what it was originally created for. So do you think that there's a formula for all this, or do you think it's just up to chance?
I think it's more chance than anything else. You can have algorithms to keep people on the platform and keep them glued to the platform, yes, but to get them initially there, it's word of mouth. It's something fresh, it's something new, different, and that just comes down to the people. If believe me, if there was a recipe, an algorithm, a formula to do this, there would be somebody out there making a lot of money doing it. I mean, there are things that you could do to get people to the platform, but at the end of the day, it comes down to word of mouth. That critical mass where people are just like, okay, yeah, this is it. I've seen it, whether it's Spoutible, whether it's Mastodon, Post News, all these different platforms. It just haven't happened yet. Because I think, once again, people are holding on to the idea that this just can't be the end of Twitter. People are just like, man, I spent so much of my life on Twitter for the last 10 years or 15 years. I just can't believe that this is it. But yeah, this is it. Because one last thing, I just don't think, he's valued it now. He's valued his own platform at what, 22 or 23 billion or something like that. And he paid over 40 for it. So if he sold it at that, now his investors are going to take a loss. He's going to take a loss. They're not going to want him to sell at that price. So I don't think he's going to sell it, and no one is going to buy it, at 40 whatever billion. No one is going to buy it at that price. So I think he's stuck with it.
Yeah, I think that if he stays, it'll eventually fall away. I think that if he finds a way to either disassociate and distance himself from it, or sells it, that's, to me, the way it could be saved. The big thing with a platform like Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, Ghost Street and Instagram, they're such huge behemoths, right? With such a huge user base that there's still viability to save it. And because even if they go down to, let's say they end up with only 100 million users, there's still a way to make it survive longer term. So I'm still in the wait and see mode. I'm still a proponent of trying to advocate for leveraging Twitter the best way possible for my business and to save it and to speak up for the marginalized voices, because I have a much better job doing that here than anywhere else. There's no other place where I'm able to do that. And so for me, that's why it's incredibly important to retweet the students marching against gun violence, to retweet the stuff around the misinformation and correcting things, or any sort of protests or things that are going on that align with my values, because I'm not really able to do that as much anywhere else. Now, this, and again, people are sharing some great comments now too. I'm sharing them on the post here, so thank you guys for being part of this. This is streaming live on Twitter, on LinkedIn, as well as on Facebook. So hey, the 3 platforms. I wanted to ask you about, this is because obviously you've started Spoutible. I've checked out Post, Mastodon, and Spoutible. What are some other options people can use for their digital strategy or building their voices? Why don't you talk a bit about Spoutible and what it's doing and how it can help?
Well, I mean, Spoutible was developed in part with the help of the Twitter community, people that were tired of what was happening and they wanted to go someplace else, and there really was no place for them to go, because I mean they used Mastodon, and for a lot of folks it was just too complicated. Post News just wasn't diverse enough for people of color. They just felt like it wasn't diverse enough. And a lot of the other platforms, unfortunately, they're still making the same mistakes Twitter and even Instagram is making in terms of not protecting the users. If you're part of the LGBTQ plus community, or you're a woman of color, or just the person of color in general, and you're on social media, life is hell, especially on Twitter. So they wanted a place where they can go and share their ideas, or talk about things that's going on without having to worry about really terrible folks coming into their feeds and posting craziness. So that's the whole idea about Spoutible, is being able to interact with each other and talk about things that you traditionally can't talk about on other platforms because you get attacked. So just a quick example is, we have someone who's trans, and they're sharing their transition process and sharing photos and talking about their experience and stuff like that. I would hate for that person to try to do that on another platform, because they would get attacked. They would get made fun of. They would, just crazy things would be said about them. But they can do that on that platform because they feel safe. In terms of engagement and things like that, like I said, this is not me saying this. This is users saying this, and a lot of our users say that they have more engagement on Spoutible than they do on Twitter. You will have someone who would have 5,000 or 10,000 followers on Twitter, and you will see the same amount of engagement or more on Spoutible with half. So that tells you something in terms of like what's happening with Twitter, where you can have 1 million followers. I mean, let's look at the New York Times for a second, right? If you look at the number of retweets and likes and things like that, some of the stuff that they put out there would get 300 likes, and I think they have 3 or 4 million followers. So you have to ask yourself, what's happening there? Why, an account with so many followers is getting such low engagement? So the whole idea about Spoutible is a better Twitter, something that's far more superior in terms of security and engagement. And I think we are getting there. We don't have the number of users obviously as Twitter does, but I think that as folks start to find a new place or whatever, I do think we're going to be the viable alternative.
Maddy, Christopher mentioned the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, Maddy, are you seeing people wanting to go to another platform, or is there more people want to stick with Twitter, or they're on Instagram? Like, what are you seeing from your community?
I'm seeing a little bit of everything, and being part of the queer community myself, I have curated my feed to see a lot of queer folks, a lot of trans folks, and I used to see, before Elon took over the platform, I used to see a whole lot of content from trans creators, whether it was talking about their transition or advocating for trans folks. I still follow Amanda Jet Knox. They're a great follow. If you've never heard of them, they're a huge trans advocate. But even Amanda and other trans creators, I'm seeing very, very little of that now. I don't know if that's due to the algorithm changing or people wanting to leave the platform or a bit of both. I've been inclined to say it's probably a bit of both, especially with what is currently happening with our American neighbors regarding trans folks. I think people just don't feel safe on Twitter anymore with the direction it's going. So, yeah, I'd say particularly trans folks want to leave Twitter for sure and move. I've seen a lot of them move to Instagram to document their process and their advocacy. Some to Spoutible, as Christopher was saying, and yeah, it's not a safe place for the queer community anymore.
Yeah, one of my favorite people I love to follow is Charlotte Clymer, and I love her content, her posts.
Yeah.
And I don't see her posts anymore, so I started looking. Where are you? And then I said, "Oh, okay, there you are." And it looks like she's still putting stuff here and putting stuff other places. I mean, she's a very prolific content creator, and so she's putting stuff everywhere. Like I'm seeing stuff on LinkedIn now. I'm seeing it on lots of different places. So. I think this goes back to the multi-platform strategy that I typically advocate for. I think that Christopher did a good job of saying the limitations of the other platforms like Mastodon and stuff. I mean, what just to keep it 100%, what are people saying about Spoutible that is a complaint per se that you need to work on?
And just so you know, she's actually on Spoutible and she uses it a lot and she gets a lot of love
I know.
But I think our biggest thing now is just putting out an app. That's what folks are waiting for.
Right.
And, when we tell them our focus is first having a stable platform, because look, people don't understand putting out an app is not hard. Taking an app and putting it together and releasing it is not hard. But once you do that, you have significantly more people onto the platform, significantly more people using it because now they're getting notifications, they're coming back. And we want to make sure that the experience is seamless, that they're not waiting 5 minutes for a spout to load. So I think that's the biggest complaint that we've had is like, okay, we want the app and it's coming. But for the most part, we do these surveys because the whole thing about Spoutible is getting the feedback from the community and trying to understand what we're doing wrong. And we overwhelmingly, it's positive. Like I said, the biggest complaint is the app, and I know that. But as people say, they feel safe on the platform. They feel like they can be themselves without having to worry about being attacked. And those knuckleheads that come on the platform, they're suspended. If they come and break our rules, they're suspended and they're gone.
For me, I mean, obviously the main thing that I would ask about is, whether it's Mastodon or Spoutible or other alternatives is, because I have so much influence here, again, building up to what I've got now and getting the same kind of results from business is something I have to take into consideration. Someone put in the comments that he predicts they'll see a massive movement when legacy checks are moved. I don't think so, to be honest. I think that those of us who are prolific content creators and have a lot of following will continue to just share content here and other places. But that's my take. Other people may care about that. If my legacy check is removed, I will still continue to share.
As much as I'd love to say I wouldn't care, I'd care a great deal.
Oh, I do care.
Absolutely.
No, I definitely care. I definitely want my legacy verified. Like in my mind, it's the dumbest thing. Give me just two colors. You have gray, you got gold. You can't have blue and green. Like it's absolutely ridiculous.
I'll say
so I do care about it, but I'm not going to leave if it's gone. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I might leave if it's gone, and the only reason I say that is because if you look at your notifications on Twitter, you've got your general notifications, and you've got your verified notifications, and that my legacy verified checkmark is the reason that I have become connected with a bunch of people who are also legacy verified on Twitter. For example, and I'm gonna name drop here, I don't care, Ryan Reynolds. He and I follow each other, and it's people like Ryan and Bobby yourself, Christopher yourself, like very influential people who I've connected with that I would not have been able to connect with had I not had that little blue check mark. And it seems so insignificant. And let me tell you, I'm the first to say, like, you know, it's popularity wise, I'm pretty, you know, against having these, you know, popularity contests and these status, you know, symbols and things like that. I don't, in my life outside, offline, that doesn't matter to me. Online as a content creator, it unfortunately it just matters for
Yeah,
your
it's
engagement.
incredibly important. I agree.
Yeah.
Let me just add to, because I completely get that. First thing, as you stated, before I got my blue check, I had no clue that there was like a verified, you know, notification stuff, whatever. It's like no one even talked about this, so this was like some unknown secret. You know, I should say this the secret and unknown to me. And then when I got it, I was like, okay, so this is actually really cool. But I totally agree that with that blue check comes, you know, connections that you would not have otherwise. And that is the reason why over the last couple of weeks, Spoutible has become popular with means something.
Sure.
So when you are allowing everyone to be verified in a way, like you said, where you can't differentiate between a legacy account versus, you know, a paid blue account, it diminishes the brand. You know, it diminishes the whole point of the blue check. So yeah, I do believe he takes it away, and I do believe he will take it away. You're going to see a lot of creators who had legacy check marks say, you know, I'm done with this, and going to move the platforms, and hopefully they move over to Spoutible. And by the way, you can transfer legacy check over to Spoutible within like two like a minute or whatever. It's really quick.
And the other thing though is if people do leave in mass droves, I'm quite sure he'll flip flop. Say, "Oh, here, come back, and we will have a green check mark for you." I'm sure that's what, because he's the flip flopper guy. He'll totally do that because he cares about money. He cares about attention.
I don't think so with this, because he's so against it. He calls it corrupt, and it would be really bad if I mean I guess he could.
Yeah.
But for him, it would be a bad look to say all of that stuff that he said about it and then capitulate and bring it back. I mean, once again, I would love for him to, you know, backtrack on that, because I think it's excuse me, I think it's stupid. I really do. I really do think it's dumb allowing people to buy check marks. I just don't get it. But yeah, you know, we'll see in a few. We'll see in a few
Although
days.
now it's happening on Meta as well. Now on Meta they could do it too, right? So that's also very interesting. I mean, I think the simple solution is to distinguish between those who are legacy verified notable people and the ones who are paying for the legit verification piece. It just seems that you can do that on any platform. I do have a question though, which is interesting, which I want to get into. As a content creator, you're right. It's hard to have my time go on every single platform. I mean, I have a hard enough time posting on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter on a regular basis. But you know, I typically use a lot of different tools to help me, you know, repurpose my content and things like that. You know, what would be great for me is to be able to take my let's say I do have a tweet that I want to share. I would like to have that go on Twitter, Mastodon, and Spoutible all at the same time. Is that something that you would see happening potentially in the future, that we could do that versus having to individually leave each platform?
Yeah. So, you know, our users, that's like one of the most requested features, is being able to post on, you know, Twitter or Instagram, wherever, Mastodon at the same time. You know, technically, it's really easy to do. The problem is, especially with Twitter, because of what Musk is doing with the APIs, you know, it's up in the air. You know, we would have
right
to bypass the, allow people to sign in, and you know, it does it, or it's just not going to work. But platforms, let's say like Mastodon or even LinkedIn, as long as we can have API access, yeah, I mean, and I think in opinion, I think that's going to be crucial to any platform, to allow people to post across multiple platforms.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's good. That's good. This has been a really great discussion, and if you guys haven't had a chance to follow Christopher and Maddy across all their platforms, whether it's on Twitter or LinkedIn or Spoutible, make sure you do follow them. And this to me has been a really, really powerful discussion. My last question was going to be, the whole idea: will Twitter survive? And I think we already know your answer, Christopher, which is it won't. And maybe why don't you share with me what's the main reason you think Twitter will not survive? Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit.
Oh, I mean, the main. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, but you were cutting out a little bit before. But go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was going to say is,
I think we're back to cutting out here.
No, it's still spotty.
Elon Musk. He's turned.
No. Sorry, Christopher. You're cutting out. Cutting out every couple seconds. So let me stop you for a second and just recheck your Wi-Fi. Okay.
And then, hopefully a reset will work.
Yeah, you may want to reset because you're definitely cutting out. So I'm going to go to Maddy first to kind of share her thoughts.
Well, I mean, we've obviously, the way the conversation has been going, this whole time is just sort of, Twitter is doomed. And so I think we've touched on a lot of points about that already. I think it's really going to depend on Elon Musk. And I hate saying that. I think it's on one hand, it is up to the users to make of it what you want to make of it. And I touched on that a bit earlier, saying, you can curate your platform in a certain way. You may not get the engagement you want, but you can physically curate it to a more positive, uplifting experience, which I am all about. But it is, at the end of the day, from a platform perspective, up to Elon Musk. If he stays as head of Twitter, I think it's going to survive regardless, but it's going to change drastically. It's going to devolve, if you will, into a very unsavory place to be a content creator. If he decides to sell it, there's probably hope that it can get back to where it was before he took over. But regardless of all of that, it's going to survive, but it's going to look very different in two different paths depending on what we see down the road.
Let's try again with you, Christopher. Let's see if you can share your thought this time.
Is it still breaking up?
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay, great. I mean, I.
Oh, shoot. No, it keeps.
I would just.
Not again.
Christopher, why don't you try with your camera off just for a second to make this point, because I really want to make sure. I want to hear your point. So maybe just turn your camera off for a second and see if that works.
Okay.
Because I really want to hear what you have to say about this.
Still no, eh?
Yeah, it's still not.
Yeah.
No. I see. Like right now, I can see on the platform you have like two yellow bars, so it's pretty bad. Whereas,
yeah, I don't know what happened. Am I still breaking up? Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, hold on one second here. I got an idea. Hold on.
Technology is only good once it works.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll share my take, which is
sure.
If Elon Musk has his hands in every single pot, it will definitely devolve and fall to pieces. If there's a way for him to have either a leadership team, or I don't think he's going to be able to sell it, so I don't think that's even an option. If there's a leadership team, or there's people, experts in there that are able to actually come up with efficiencies and ways to make the platform better, and they start actually listening to users, then I think that'll be fine. It'll take a long time for this platform to fall, because it is so big and so large. But I think it's more aligned to what Maddy said, which is it's either going to stay the way it is, or it's going to de-evolve. It could get better if there's some distance, but it probably will de-evolve to something that is not as fun anymore for people, and that's why it's going to. But it still probably will have millions of people on it, just yelling at each other in their own kind of backyard, which is, that's the challenge with the echo chambers. One of the things I love about Twitter is the fact that you had all these diverse voices talking about whatever they want, about whoever they want, however they want. I love the immediacy of things. When there's a soccer goal scored in World Cup, or there's an issue right now that Justin Pearson's back in the Tennessee House of Representatives, like everyone's talking about it, it's immediacy. I love that, and the accessibility, because whether you're an influencer or even if you're not an influencer and don't have a blue check mark, you can actually tweet someone. Sometimes Ryan Reynolds replies back, and it's amazing because they don't do that on LinkedIn or Facebook, but they do it here, and so that's really one of the cool things about Twitter.
It's truly a platform for everyone. I think is the main thing there, and it's everyone's on the same playing field, which I think is the other point I want to sneak in at the end here. It's a level playing field. Everyone can interact with everyone in the same way, and no one is necessarily above everyone else. And it just feels like a really fun place to be, but that's quickly changing.
and fun fact, Ryan Reynolds did follow me too, but he's since unfollowed me, so I'm sad.
No,
this Canadian's so sad, but it's okay.
I would say I'll have a word with him, but I'm not that close with him. But
I'm blaming it on Elon Musk. I think he made him unfollow me, so I don't know. That's my theory. Christopher, okay, I'll give you another chance to say your last thoughts here.
Okay, so I am now in my office, so I should have
Oh yeah, this is good. This is good.
Yes. Okay, you can't see me, but you can hear me. So here's the thing. I agree with Maddy. I think look, this is what I was saying before I had to move. So it's the Trump effect. If Elon has basically become essentially Trump now to a lot of folks on the left.
Yep.
And as he continues to post these crazy memes and the Dogecoin stuff and doing all the craziness that he's doing, and continue to turn people off, especially folks on the left, I just think that we're going to see a slow death walk. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying there's going to, Twitter is just going to die. I mean, MySpace is still around. There are people who still use MySpace. There are going to be millions. Yeah. There are lots of actually people who still use MySpace. There are going to be millions of people that are going to continue to use Twitter. When I say Twitter is dead, I'm talking about in terms of the influence that it currently has. It still has, some influence. I will not deny that. But I think as time goes on, we're going to continue to see that influence wane. NPR leaving, I think it's just the beginning. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to start to see, BBC, New York Times, eventually Washington Post. I think all those different outlets are going to move to other platforms. And I'll just say this, and I completely agree with you, Bobby, that you do have to have a multi-platform strategy. You just can't use one platform. You have to use the LinkedIns and the TikToks and the Instagrams and whatever to get your messaging out. But I also agree with you that Twitter has been, essential for a lot of us to get our messaging out because of just the way that it's built. The only thing I don't agree with you guys with is that it can be reproduced on another platform. I guarantee it can be. It just boils down to what platform that's going to be.
And I hope that you will get me thousands of followers on Spoutible. So,
you know what? I'm going to make sure you get thousands of followers.
Yeah, give me the Elon special there, okay? That's what I want. So, and I used to say to people that if the U.S. can survive Trump, Twitter can survive Elon Musk. But what I can see is happening is that what's happening with the U.S. is that there's a whole Trump backyard that they're all playing in. And I think that Twitter with Elon Musk could theoretically become a true social, the different version of it, and that his version of it. And so I think, but again, I still want to end on a positive note. Like there's a lot of really amazing people on Twitter. There's a lot of amazing people on Spoutible and other platforms. Do your best to support the voices, champion people, champion causes, curate your platform, curate your followers. Put your message out there. Have a multi-platform strategy. I think that will serve all of us well. And if you get a chance, make sure you follow Maddy. Make sure you follow Christopher. Thank you so much, guys, for being.
10,000. Please follow me.
There you go. There you go. Let's get her over the 10,000 barrier. That's fantastic. And yeah, I want to thank you both for being here. A really, really great discussion. I love that we disagree with each other. That's awesome. I want to do this again. It's so fun. And I hope people who watch this, if we watch this, there will be a replay available on YouTube, and you guys can take a look at that. But you can also retweet it on Twitter or share it on LinkedIn on your posts. Let's last bit, Christopher. Where can people find you, or if they want to connect with you or follow you? What's your preference? And then
Sure. You can follow me on Spoutible, Bouzy. If you're still on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter at Bouzy, Bouzy. And I'm on Instagram as well. Don't use it as much, but you can follow me there. It's the same thing, Bouzy. And it was great. It was great being here with you guys. I enjoyed the conversation, and I wish we had more time to discuss stuff. It was great.
Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Maddy.
This was awesome. I want to echo Christopher there. I had a really good time, and I hope we can do this again. And yeah, down to chat about Twitter anytime. I'm most active on Twitter, but I'm also active on Facebook and Instagram, all under the same handle. It's Maddy Eisenberg, and it should just be under my photo there. So.
And I also want to say that I'm fans of both of you and both your work, your tweets, what the stuff you're sharing out there. I do love it. I am a supporter. I often will, if I find your stuff, I'll retweet it. And I do really appreciate you for that. I should say that this is hosted by the Thought Leadership Branding Club, which is basically a membership community that supports building people's brands and building people's thought leadership to become expert authorities. We have a community of diverse leaders from across the world, and we host a series of events, including the monthly live stream like this one. We host a weekly Twitter space on Mondays at 11 a.m. called the Power Connection Chat. I also host LinkedIn audio rooms and Clubhouse rooms where we feature different guest speakers on different topics. So if you want to learn more about what we're doing, feel free to check out TLB Branding Club on Twitter or the Thought Leadership Branding Club on LinkedIn. With that, if you have further questions, feel free to tag me and Maddy and Christopher below on LinkedIn. You can reply to us on Twitter. You can share this, and we will happily answer any other questions you guys have. Make sure you check out Spoutible as well. And if you're on Spoutible, you can follow me too there, because I'm there as well. So with that, have a wonderful week. Stay safe, be kind, and rewind. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.